having one of those days, battling with technology and motivation. And sometimes in times like that, you forget why you pick up a guitar in the first place. So let's try and remind ourselves why we do that, and let's trawl through one of the greatest guitarists and most influential guitarists of the last 37 years, Mr. Yngwie Malmsteen. So he first comes to the attention of Mike Varney, and the Steeler album is the first album he appears on. I don't have a copy of that. And I mentioned about that in my Shrapnel Shred top 10 if you're interested in that. And there's about 50 people up to that or something, so this may get more, it may get less. I'm a long way from blockbuster territory. But prior to that, Malmsteen does demos when he's about 15, between 1978 and 1982. Now I forget the name of the band off the tip of my tongue. I know there's a track called Merlin's Castle. I think the demos CD that you can get is called In the Beginning. Now what's interesting about this is, it's how formed Malmsteen is at the age of 15, how you can actually hear all the elements that are going to come into his playing and are already there. What it lacks is that finesse, that polish, and what often happens with guitar players is pretty early on in the first 2, 3, 4, 5 years, they pretty much develop all their chops. A lot of things you're going to hear, if you listen to early Steve Vai, you can hear that, but it's that extra 10% is not always apparent that sends them over the top. The same with Van Halen. I listened to the Van Halen demos of 1976. Really good, but no one says better than, say, Ronnie Montrose necessarily. Then again, if you listen to Van Halen live stuff on the bootleg on YouTube from 75, it's amazing. I don't know, probably didn't capture something. So for me, the early Malmsteen releases don't quite capture where he's going to be, but the first album to do so is this different cover. This is No Parole from Rock and Roll by Alcatraz from 1983. So basically he leaves Steeler and teams up with Graham Bonnet, probably more from a business point of view because it's going to get him exposure. This CD's actually got a live from 1983 CD on it, and a while ago I was listening to that in the car, and then I heard a mistake. I was like, he made a mistake. And then I realised why it jumped out, because that's the only mistake he makes on the whole thing. I don't think there's any overdubs on this. There's maybe 1-2 bits where he slips up. It's just absolutely phenomenal. Anyway, let's talk about the album. So I first heard this 88. I think I hadn't heard it before. So the opening track, Island in the Sun's a really well-known track. And that's actually my favourite solo on this album. It's just a lovely... melodic build-up, and it uses Malmsteen's speed and finesse to build something in the solo. So there's a perception of Malmsteen that he just plays fast. It's that thing. Other players play slow and with feeling. Malmsteen plays fast and without feeling. Malmsteen doesn't play fast without feeling. He doesn't play slow without feeling. He does both. He's a great guitar player, and he's part of that legacy of guitar, going back to the mid-60s. That's just my opinion. So anyway, Island in the Sun, you got General Hospital, another great solo, and then Jet to Jet, another one, right off the bat, 3 really cracking tracks. And the solos are very well structured. I think later on Malmsteen improvises more, but his solos are very well structured on this. Great vocals by Graham Bonnet. And the band's really good. The production's a little tinny, Dennis McKay. But it's aged pretty well, this album. Then you've got Hiroshima Mon Amour. That was the first track I ever heard with Malmsteen on the tube. Again, he's brilliant on that. Then Krina Curry. That's got some serious business on it. That was side 1. Side 2, you got a little instrumental, Incubus. Then Too Young to Dry, Too Drunk to Live. That's sort of quite rainbowish, Triplet Feel. Then there's a track called Bigfoot. This has got an insane solo. He does a fast run down. He goes to some really heavy palm muting on the bottom strings. Then into a dive bomb on his low E. And the aggression, the dig, the attitude, the fire and anger in his playing. What I love about this is it's the determination for him to go, you need to take notice of me. You've not heard anything like me before. Then you've got Star Car Lane, great solos on that, and then Suffer Me, for some people that's their favourite solo, his outro solo, and that's fantastic. So, it's that thing with Malmsteen, he's got, people saw the image and like, he's copying Richie Blackmore, he plays a Strat, and he wears the kind of Richie Blackmore type gear, But I remember in Chronicle with Richie Blackmore clone, it's just like, it's just not, you know, the things on here. You can hear Richie Blackmore's influence, you can hear Lee John Roth, Al Di Meola, sometimes Alan Holdsworth, Eddie Van Halen, Michael Schenker, you know, you can hear those players, but ultimately it's very, very slight, you know. He sounds and plays like no other player in history, and that's why he was the most influential guitar player in the latter part of the 80s, and still to this day. We just do a little test you could do, is just get, like, put power metal in as a search on YouTube, pick a random track and just play it, and I guarantee you it'll have some influence of Malmsteen in there, either in the solo section or the types of chord progressions. We'll talk about his songwriting more in a bit. Then he's got the Rising Force album. Again, I covered this a bit on the Shrapnel Shred album, Shrapnel Shred Top 10 I did. You know, I really like this album. It's not my favourite Malmsteen album because I like his vocal albums, and the production's not great. It's quite interesting, the deeper cuts on this, you know, check out Evil Eye or Little Savage, you know, those aren't tracks that get mentioned that much, but that's like the first neoclassical shred album, proper one in history. So his first solo album, all with vocals, mostly vocals, is this 1985's Marching Out. And this is a really influential album, firstly in the songwriting style, the types of progressions he's doing, but also the subject matter. You know, it sounds cheesy now, like I'm a Viking, but it's just such an influence on, you know, the type of lyrics you get in Nordic and Scandi metal. It opens up with his classic I'll See the Light Tonight, fantastic Jeff Scott Soto vocal. Back then Jeff Scott Soto, you know, he's singing more the power metal style, not as AOR hard rock. So he's very kind of in that lineage of like a young Dio. But it's phenomenal solo on that, great song, great sort of Aussie style riff. Then you got Don't Let It End, that's good. Disciples of Hell, that's got an amazing intro, where he does an incredible arpeggio passage. The aforementioned I'm a Viking, and then Overture 1383 open side 2, and the end section of this song, I mean, for people who say Malmsteen has no feel, you know, just check out the end, check out his note selection, his vibrato. This guy's rated as one of the greatest vibratos, maybe not the greatest vibrato in heavy metal and hard rock. You know, it's not just me that thinks like, it's people like Guthrie Govan. Obviously, you know, no one cares really what I think, but you know, Guthrie Govan, Steve Vai, players like that have, you know, come to you know, basically eulogise Malmsteen's tone vibrato. Obviously that's the most important technique, and the intonation on your bends, and the most important techniques in guitar. The other stuff, you know, you could be the best shredder in the world, but if you haven't got the touch, the tone, the bends, the vibrato, it's not going to sound great. Malmsteen ticks those boxes in spades. Anguish and Fear, great track, great vocal. On the Run Again, awesome sort of bluesy based kind of lead on the intro on that, a bit kind of like the sort of thing John Norum would do of Europe. And again, it's that thing with Malmsteen, you know, his perception is just neoclassical arpeggios, Frisian dominant mode, but he does have like a blues-based influence coming from Jimi Hendrix, and he does it incredibly well. Then one of my favourite tracks, Soldier Without Faith, immense solo on this, lasts about 2 minutes, I'm happy with that. Caught in the Middle, probably the weakest track, and then Marching Out, this is where he's sort of Dorian, uses something called the Dorian mode. You hear a bit of his Alan Holdsworth legato influence on that. Really good record. It's a shame the production's a bit muffled. So his next album, this is my first proper introduction to Malmsteen. This is my favourite Malmsteen album of all time. It's one of my favourite albums ever. You know, it's maybe not my top 10, but it's an album I need in my life. I still remember the day I first heard it. I walked into school in 5th form, and a mate of mine who's a guitarist had a pale blue Walkman, Sony Walkman, and he bought the album, and he goes, "Oh, I've got a Malmsteen album." And he put on the first track. I listened to You Don't Remember, I'll Never Forget, and that's just one of those life-changing moments, you know, in the space of like 3, 4 minutes. My life's not the same, and it's never been the same since. So it's a trilogy album, a better production on this, but I think what really comes across on this is the quality of Malmsteen as a songwriter, stylistically. He writes in a, you know, taking what Rainbow did and Dio in the Rising era, he takes that power metal, or what would become power metal sound, but he infuses it with some hard rock AOR elements, really melodic, and I think this. I always really liked this, but I just think it's a better record than I thought at the time. You Don't Remember, I'll Never Forget. That's me, probably my all-time favourite Malmsteen song. Great vocal by Mark Bowles. He changes singer every every album, unfortunately, in a lot of ways. It says on the back here, produced and conducted by Yngwie Malmsteen. Yeah, okay. Then second track's Liar. That's a fast double kick drum track. It's got a brilliant trade-off with his keyboard player in it. Actually, they don't trade off. He does a solo first. Jens Johansson. So the Johansson brothers is Jens Johansson on keyboards. He's in Richie Blackmore's version of Rainbow at the moment. He was in Dio as well, Lock Up the Wolves era. And Anders Johansson on drums. Anders later went on to Hammerfall. So this is great. Malmsteen just does an insane solo. The solos are mixed, especially high on this. And you can say maybe too high, but they're so good that, yeah, they should be mixed really high. Queen in Love, brilliant. That's maybe the one album's other great tracks. Solos, ludicrous. Crying, again, if you think Malmsteen hasn't got other sides to him, listen to this beautiful ballad, listen to his touch, his tone, his compositional sense, beautiful. Then it finishes with Fury, another double kick drum track. It's just brilliant. The end of this song's great. He just unleashes his full arsenal. Then Side to Open with Fire. This has got a great riff. It's got that kind of All Right Now chord shape inversion, and he uses his whammy bar to kind of slur the riff, and it won't surprise you that the guitar solo is insanely good. It's got a really great hook on the chorus. It's just a really good song. Then it's another great song. It's Magic Mirror. This is really up tempo. Guess what? The solo's absolutely awesome. It's really good. Track 8's probably the weakest track, Dark Ages. It's a slow dungeonistic song about living in dark ages. But it's a good filler track, you know. I think the solo's awesome on this as well. And then if you just think the guy can't sort of, you know, get better, he unleashes his greatest ever instrumental, which is the Trilogy Suite, Opus 5. It's in 3 parts. The intro's absolutely incredible. It's a superb piece of music. You know, this album's easily a 9 out of 10. Just going back through it now, I need to listen to it. But it's trilogy. Some people prefer Marching Out, and I would understand that, but I think the production and the fact that it's got less songs than Marching Out's got, it's got a little instrumental, but it's got 11, 12 tracks, 3 of them instrumentals, but the first one's called Prelude. But this really benefits from 9 tracks. People have been watching these things I've been doing. You know, I've got a thing that, like, albums, you know, the best with 9 or 10 tracks, really. It's very hard for artists to write 12, 13, 14 amazing tracks of human beings. So next up, Trilogy's pretty successful in America. Mark Bowles leaves, or he's given the boot. So Malmsteen's getting a bit of following, so there's a push probably to get him more commercial. And they do a good move, but something happens. Basically, he goes out and gets drunk and then crashes his E-Type Jag and gets a bad head injury. So we'll come to that, how I think this affects this album, but his next album is under the title of Yngwie Malmsteen's Rising Force, probably because Joel and Turner, you know, they want more of a band vibe. This is Odyssey. So a lot of people might know this the best. Let's have a little drink of a cup of tea. Because they'll be aware of the track Heaven Tonight, which was probably played on things like Raw Power and MTV. It's a great track. Really cool, sort of chunky sus4 riff. The other interesting thing with this album is the only time in history, apart from one other album, which we'll come to down the line, where he works with a producer. Now this is produced by Jeff Glicksman, who did Kansas and Gary Moore's Victims of the Future and Soraya's debut album. You know, he's a good profile as producer. He's not quite top tier for me. I don't like the sound of this album. It's a little abrasive, and I don't like Yngwie's tone. But again, the other thing is, I think mechanically, Yngwie's head injuries affected him, and for this and the next album, his speed, accuracy, his touch, and fury isn't quite there as it would be. And anyone is aware of what happens when people have head injuries. You can understand that. It's such as the nature of the music business. He probably wasn't given the break he should have to have the recovery time. But anyway, it opens with Rising Force, and this is an old track. This dates back to 1978 or 82, those demos I was telling you about. So it's a really cool opener. He used to open up with this live. Then goes into Hold On, which is a sort of more the hard rock AOR influence type of track he was doing at this time. I really like it, really good. Then Heaven Tonight, then the big ballad Dreaming, lovely track in the saddest of all keys, D minor. So yeah, Joe Lynn Turner's a really good fit because he's going in a more melodic direction. Joe Lynn Turner, does a really good job on this album. They're a good partnership with the songwriting. I think the songwriting on this album is really good. I think live it was a problem because Joe Lynn Turner, with the full-on metal of Malmsteen, I don't think he really had the kind of right kind of presence for that. But obviously when he's in Rainbow, and this kind of softer music, that era of Rainbow, it probably fitted better. So when I saw them live on this tour, Malmsteen was just too loud and it didn't totally do it for me. Next is a little instrumental, Bite the Bullet. Not that fussed about that. And then Right in the Dungeons, that's pretty cool. Again, it's got that triplet, sort of 12/8 feel. That Malmsteen really loves. That was the end of side 1 on the original vinyl. Side 2, Deja Vu, good track. Again, 2 of my favourite tracks next, which are more, again, in that AOR hard rock style. Crystal Ball and Now's the Time. Particularly love the solo on Now's the Time. He does a beautiful solo. Again, there's a slightly gnarly quality to the solos on this album. They're not as refined because of the aforementioned accident. So that does give him a different quality. His accident is referenced in the next track, Faster Than the Speed of Light. That's about him driving his Jag 2 quite fast. Finishes with a couple of instrumentals. Krakatoa, I've never been that fussed with. And then a lovely little instrumental called Memories, and I actually had that playing when we were signing the register at my wedding. Well, our wedding. Wasn't strictly mine. It's a really good album. It's probably 7, 8 out of 10, probably an 8. It's good. It shows off his songwriting. Malmsteen's a good songwriter, and he writes well with Joe Lynn Turner there. So next album, Odyssey's does quite well. It probably nearly goes gold in America, but it's that time, isn't it? It's 1989, 1990. This one's from 1990. I think I got this one, Eclipse, the same day as I got Hurricane's Slave to the Grind album. Which, if you've not checked that out, that's great. And it's got phenomenal guitar by Doug Aldridge and great singing by Kelly Hansen. But I'm digressing. So this album, a bit of a better production. He's back to producing himself. It's got a better sound. Opening track, Making Love's one of the best tracks he ever did. Really love it. And it's clever. It's kind of, instead of having verse, bridge, chorus, it's kind of got a double bridge. So it's kind of got 4 sections, including the chorus. Quite unusual. Really like it. Next one was Bedroom Eyes. It's alright. It's kind of Hendrixy bluesy thing. On the Odyssey album, he starts introducing a wah-wah pedal. So he starts introducing sort of funky sort of Hendrix influence on this album. Next one, Save Our Love, which is a top power ballad. Awesome solo. Motherless Child, it's okay. Devil in Disguise is a good track, and that finished side 1 of this album. Side 2, Judas, it's a good one, and What Do You Want, that's got a great keyboard part, and he just, a top little lick on the intro. Then you got a typical fast driving song, Demon Driver, like the sequel to Fast and the Speed of Light, it's okay. Then Fault Line, a really good kind of epic track about living on a fault line, but it's got an epic chorus. And then it finishes with See You in Hell, which is a typical sort of up-tempo Malmsteen, and the instrumental Eclipse, which I like, but I don't think it's one of his best. Sort of, once he did Trilogy Suite, that was it for me. There is one an instrumental we'll come to that soon, but that was kind of like the pinnacle. I should say, like, he gets a singer in called Goran Edman on this album, and I think some people were disappointed to see Joe Lynn Turner go, but he's got a lovely voice. He's sung on John Norum's Total Control album. And he's just got a really kind of nice melodic voice, and again, in the direction Malmsteen's in at this time, he works really well. I mean, I would say Jeff Scott Soto would always be the classic singer, but I would say that Goran Edman, him and Joe Lynn Turner, they're different but equal. So Eclipse, at the time I was kind of, not that fussed with it, but it's a good Malmsteen album. It's not great. It's probably, it's a good 6, 7 out of 10. It's definitely worth having. Now his next album, is interesting. He switches label. This is the last time he will be on a major label. Switching from Polydor to Electra would normally be a good thing, but if you're doing that in 91, 92 and you're playing guitar like Malmsteen, we know what happened. We know that it's all doomed, basically. So the only album he ever made for Electra is this Fire and Ice. I think this is the lost classic, and there's some people out there who agree with me. Cool cover as well. I had this on vinyl. I think this is a really strong record, and I think the principal reason starting out is, aside from the songs, and he continues with Goran Edman, who does a really good job. Production's good, but the main thing is Malmsteen's fully recovered from his car accident. The opening track, Perpetual, I remember when I first got this album, went and put it on. Perpetual, the middle solo opens with a blinding fast run, and basically the second that run ended, I knew the man was back, because basically he's just got that fury, he's got that accuracy that the Steen brings to stuff. So it opens with an instrumental, Perpetual. I said before that, like, you know, Trilogy Suite was the peak. This isn't far off. This is one of his great instrumentals for me. It's sort of Far Beyond the Sun and Black Star and stuff like that. Soloing's phenomenal. It's a great track. It's got an evil riff. Brilliant. So that's the opens instrumental. It's pretty bold. Next track's Dragonfly. That's kind of doing this sort of Hendrixy bluesy thing, and it's a good tune. Like it. Next track's a little cheesy teaser, but I quite like it. Commercial sort of rocker. Again, using that All Right Now, Brian May inversion type of shape. Obviously, guitarists will know what I'm talking about. Then it's got an epic How Many Miles to Babylon and Cry No More. There's two in a row. They're very good. Really good songs. No Mercy, that's another up-tempo double kick drum track. And it's really good. And then I think that finished side one of the original vinyl. Now the vinyl had 11 tracks on it, and that worked really well. The CD version, obviously we're into CD and had 14 tracks, so it was like, again, it's a little too long. But the quality keeps up. There's another instrumental called Leviathan, which is good, really good. Fire and Ice, the title track's great guitar on that. Forever Is a Long Time is another really good double kick drum track. I would say his up-tempo tracks on this album are stronger than they've been, the strongest they've been since Trilogy. I was mentioning Liar and Fury off Trilogy before, the up-tempo track's really good here. I'm My Own Enemy, yeah, that's a kind of ballad with immense passionate soloing. Then Weak track, All I Want Is Everything. That's probably the track I'm not as fussed about, and that was this was the bonus track on the CD. And then I don't know if it was I'm My Own Enemy was, I can't remember now. There's a little instrumental called Golden Dawn, it's nice, and then Final Curtain, which is quite epic. Again, it's solid 8 out of 10. This is, I think this is like a lost sort of classic Malmsteen, and Trilogy would be my favourite always. But I'd probably say it's between that and Marching Out. For songs, I'd probably say that, but with a phenomenal guitar, Marching Out on the top, Jeff Scott Soto, they're probably duking it out. And Odyssey's probably 4 because of the songwriting, not as much the guitar playing. Obviously, I'm not including Alcatraz in this, but that would probably make 5, So then things change for Malmsteen. He doesn't have a major label deal anymore. Who does? Well, any of the bands I liked, they're either split up or they've gone to indie labels in the 90s. Yeah, my favourite decade. Yeah, my favourite decade, the 1990s for music. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate everything you did. Right, you've got his main market is in Japan. So a lot of his albums come out on the Dreamcatcher label, I think. So this isn't the original cover for this is the 7th sign. So I'd say his 90s period is good. He self-produces again. He gets a singer called Mike, I think it's Vasara, forgive my pronunciation if it's wrong. He came from Loudness. He does the Soldier of Fortune album. He might do another one after that. So Loudness parted ways with their Japanese singer, and then got in an American guy. I think he had some Japanese heritage. Unfortunately, they still sounded good loudness, but they lost that unique element. But he's good. Never Die, Forever One. Those two stand out on side one. I'm saying side one. I've only ever had this on CD. Brothers, beautiful instrumental. I think Malmsteen lost his brother, I think, at some time around this, and he does a really passionate instrumental. Title track's good. This track called Prisoner of Your Love, which has got the cheesiest sort of Bach, Mozart type arrangement. I love it though. Then there's Pyramid of Cheops, which is a proper dungeon Egypt metal. It's got a lyric about stone by stone, it's like building the pyramid. I like that track, Crash and Burn. And then there's a track called Sorrow finishing off, which is a cool instrumental. It's got a bonus track on here called In the Distance. Yes, it's a 6, 7 out of 10. It's not as good as the album before. It's maybe not as good as Eclipse, but by this time he knows how to write songs. He's always known how to write songs, and it's good. So Magnum Opus is from '96, I think. This is a reissue. Might be '95. That was '94. 7th side. Again, it's got a similar sound. It's got Mike Vasar on vocals. They're quite sort of interchangeable, these albums. Vengeance opens up the album. This made Guitars That Rule the World, I think, the Brian May compilation. Then there's No Love Lost, Tomorrow's Gone. The Only One's good. That's got a really good chorus. And then I Die Without You, which is again another big baroque sort of ballad, which I like. Overture 1622. It's a cool little instrumental. I think that might have a nice little counterpoint thing going on. Voodoo, that's a good one. It's kind of in Middle Eastern Phrygian dominant mode. Again, guitarists will know what I mean. And he unleashes the fury. The next track, Cross the Line, the track's not, it's okay. It's a kind of commercial rocker. The solo on this is just unbelievable. I mean, he's shown a lot of maturity here. He gets his wah-wah out, but it breaks down and he just puts just some lovely kind of blues playing, and he's right in the pocket. And there's a few notes he hits and you're just like, Jesus Christ, this guy's just one of the greatest ever. Then there's Time Will Tell, that's a good one. Fire in the Sky, I like that one. Yeah, like Saxon have a song called Fire in the Sky. Have you ever tried that, like finding songs by bands that have, the same title, like Fantasy by Aldenova, Fantasy by Project Driver, Fantasy by Bonfire, I'm digressing again anyway. Then there's a little instrumental called Dawn, and another one called Tournament was a bonus track. Again, it's pretty much similar to the 7th Sign. Solid 6, 7 out of 10. There's some great playing on there, some good writing. Vocals work okay. So it's not premium Malmsteen, but it's although I kind of neglected it at the time, it's definitely worth having. Comes to this one, this is the only second time in history he works with an outside producer again, the late great Chris Sangarides, as a co-producer. Again, I kind of ignored this album a bit at the time, but a good mate of mine put me onto this. And I think this is a good record. I think this really benefits from two things. Having an outside producer sounds good, and it's got the great Cozy Powell on in his final recording. Cozy Powell plays up a storm. So it opens up with Braveheart, proper like, up-tempo 12/8 metal with Celtic influence. Really good. Title track, Facing the Animal, that's really good. That's evil, got some evil riffing. Enemy Sacrifice, they're really good. He changed his singer on this album, Matt Levin. Matt Levin's an interesting singer, he's sung with Treat as well, back in '92. And I like his voice. He's got that Swedish melodic thing. He's got a raspiness to it. So he's slightly different. Malmsteen singers tend to be powerful, Dio-esque, or have a clean sort of AOR tinge like Goran Edman or Jolyn Turner. Although Jolyn Turner's got a lot of sort of Paul Rogers soul about him. So Matt Levin was different, and he only did this album, I think. And it's good. Then it's got a ballad. My Resurrection, that's a really good tune. Another Time, yeah, those two tracks are really good. Then there's one called Heathens from the North, which is about Vikings. Yeah, top. You got to have songs about Vikings. Alone in Paradise, End of My Rope, that's a good one. And then probably my favourite track, Only the Strong. It's got a great riff. Again, just showing like Malmsteen's strength as a writer. then Poison in Your Veins finishes off the album, and then it's got Air on a Theme, which is kind of a spin on Bach. Again, there's probably a few too many tracks. I think there's a 13, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 on this. So again, trimming a couple of tracks would benefit, but it's a good late entry in the Malmsteen catalogue. So I'd probably say it's better than the last two, so I'd certainly give that a 7, 7.5. Then I'll just quickly, before going to this, about the year before that, 1996, Malmsteen, for people who are watching this, which is probably most people who from the Newcastle area, you'll know the Black Swan Arts Centre in the centre of Newcastle, well, on the West Road. So back then in 96, Malmsteen did a he did a demo, an evening where he demonstrated. I don't know if it was sponsored by Fender or Marshall, but basically on that evening he basically just sat down with backing tracks, probably on CD or some early digital file system, and he just basically blew people's minds who was there. He still had all the touch, all the mastery, and he played some tracks off this. He said he was working on it. So this is his. This is on Dreamcatcher, but they rebranded it in Japan, Dreamcatcher Classics, and it's packaged, if you look, like a proper classical music album. So this is his Yngwie Johann Malmsteen with the Czech Philharmonic Orchestra, Concerto Suite for Electric Guitar and Orchestra in E flat minor. What's funny about it, it's in E flat minor because Malmsteen tunes to E flat. It's not. It's not like I write an E flat minor kind of thing. It's just that his guitar's tuned that way. I think this is awesome. And when he played the tracks, it's got a lot of the themes and ideas that he's used on his studio stuff. But the orchestration's really good. The Czech Philharmonic, it benefits from working with a European orchestra. Obviously, if you got the London or the Berlin, they may be more top notch, but the budget wouldn't allow it. So he's got a good choice here. I think there was a DVD with a Japanese orchestra. And that's good, but I feel a European orchestra is the right way to go. It's really good. I love listening to this. This is probably one of the last instrumental albums of anything that I bother with. I don't think a lot of people are aware of this, but it's very good. And his tone's great, and his compositions and the orchestration of the guitar sits really well together. Obviously, Uli John Roth did stuff like this as well. He did a version of Vivaldi's Four Seasons. Again, that worked well, but I think he had a smaller, string quartet for that. But Malmsteen's frequency works well with the strings. Obviously, if you're working with an orchestra, you probably need to change your tone, but I don't think he has. Because his vibrato and his top note is very violin-like. So just sort of say, obviously I mentioned about Malmsteen's vibrato before. Obviously, guitarists will know what I'm talking about. One of his key things is his top E bend. So he will go to the 21st fret, he doesn't have 22 on his strat, and he will bend up